Hello and welcome to Raju Notes channel, your pit stop for weekly current affairs updates. The updates tailor-made for students taking all kinds of competitive exams like UPSC, civils, defense and placement interviews. Please subscribe to the channel and stay updated every Sunday. The All India Consumer Price Index for Agricultural Labor CPIAL for the January this year eased to 4.61% as compared to 7.52% in the same month the previous year. According to the data released by the Ministry of Labour and Employment, rural labourers CPIRL eased to 4.73% for January 2025 as compared to 7.37% in corresponding period of the last year. The data showed that sub-indices including pan, supari, fuel, light, clothing, bedding and footwear and various miscellaneous registered marginal rise, while food witnessed decline during the January as compared to the previous months for both agriculture and rural laborers. Japan and Philippines have agreed to boost military cooperation amid mutual concerns over China's growing assertiveness in the region. Both countries have agreed to establish a strategic dialogue between the two militaries and a high level framework for defense equipment and technology cooperation. Speaking at a news conference to mark the conclusion of a 2-day visit to the Philippines, Japanese Defense Minister General Nakatani said both countries also agreed on the need to enhance cooperation to maintain peace and stability in the region. Japan and Philippines, both allies of the United States, through mutual defense treaties, have been among the strongest critics of Beijing's attempt to assert control over the South China Sea, a vital waterway that handles approximately one third of the global trade. India and the United Kingdoms today agreed to resume free trade negotiations between the two countries. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said this while addressing the joint press conference along with the UK Secretary of the State for Business and Trade, Jonathan Reynolds, in New Delhi. Mr. Goyal mentioned that this is an outcome of discussions held between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom Sir Keir Starmer on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro in November 2024. He said that the talks on FTA were stalled due to the elections in the UK. He highlighted that the Free Trade Agreement FTA between India and UK is going to be a forward looking, equitable, balanced, transparent, and mutually beneficial agreement which will benefit both countries. Israel has announced it is increasing its military operation in the occupied Western Bank by sending in tanks and keeping troops in the areas where Palestine have fled. This would prevent tens and thousands of displaced Palestinians from returning. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz today said he had instructed the military to prepare to remain in some of the West Bank's refugee camps. The military has been ordered to not allow the return of residents or for terror to grow back again. The military also said it was expanding the raid in the West Bank to other areas and was sending tanks to the city of Jenin. There has also been a spike in Palestinian attacks emanating from the West Bank. Meanwhile, a series of blasts rocked three empty parked buses late Thursday in Israel. Police officials are viewing it as a suspected militant attack. The raid's intensification came at a sensitive time as the truce between Israel and Hamas persists but remains unsuitable. The Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, held a meeting with French Army Chief General Pierre Schihel during his visit to France. He inspected the Guard of Honor at Les Invalides. The Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, undertook this 4-day official visit to France as part of his efforts to bolster India-France defense cooperation. The meeting aimed to foster stronger military ties between the two nations. General Dwivedi also traveled to Marseilles, where he visited the 3rd Division of the French Army and was briefed on the mission and role of the 3rd Division. The bilateral exercise Shakti India France Training Cooperation and French Army Modernization Program Scorpion. The Chief of Army Staff visited the Nivei Chapel Indian War Memorial to lay wreath in honor of the fallen Indian soldiers who participated in World War I. He also delivered a talk at the École de Guerre, the French Joint Staff College, highlighting the evolving nature of modern warfare and India's strategic vision. India has abstained on a series of resolutions on Ukraine and amendments at the United Nations General Assembly. The United States joined Russia to vote against the resolution which was put forward by Ukraine and Western nations condemning Russia. China also abstained. The resolution was adopted with 93 votes for it and 18 against it, with 65 abstentions. A Washington sponsored resolution that did not name the Russia was cleverly amended at the initiative of Western nations to call out Moscow. United States abstained from the resolution it had proposed after the amendments presented by France were adopted. United States, which is directly discussing with Russia a peace deal for Ukraine, views the condemnation of Moscow as interfering with its initiative. The government, in collaboration with the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, has organized the first ever capacity building program on the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540 and strategic trade controls for Asia Pacific in Andhra Pradesh. Nearly 24 government experts from 8 countries, including Bangladesh, Cambodia, Indonesia, Iraq, Laos, PDR, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, participated in the 3-day program. This flagship program is a reaffirmation of India's robust credentials on non proliferation and a demonstration of the country's contribution to the international non proliferation architecture. Defense Research and Development Organization (DRDO) and the Indian Navy carried out successful flight trials of the first of its kind of naval anti-ship missile NASM-SR from the integrated test ranges in Chandipur, Orissa. The trials demonstrated the missile's capabilities against ship targets while launched from Indian Naval Seeking Helicopter. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh had congratulated DRDO, the Indian Navy, and the industries for the successful flight tests. He said that the test for man-in-loop features is a unique as it gives the capability of in-flight retargeting. The Ministry of Defense in its statement said that the trials have proven the missile man-in-loop feature and scored a direct hit on a small ship target in sea skimming mode at its maximum range. The missile uses an indigenous image infrared seeker for terminal guidance. The ministry added that the mission also has demonstrated a high bandwidth two-way data link system which is used to transmit the seeker's live images back to the pilot for in-flight retargeting. The ministry further added that the missile was launched in bearing only lock on after launch mode with several targets in close vicinity for selecting one amongst them. The missile uses an indigenous fiber optic gyroscope based INS and a radio altimeter for its mid course guidance and integrated avionics module. Electromechanical actuators for aerodynamic and jet vane control, thermal batteries, and PCB warheads. Scientists finally discovered why Mars is red. A new NASA funded study suggested that the water rich iron mineral ferrihydrite is behind Mars' reddish dust. At some point, iron with rocks on Mars reacted with the water or water and oxygen in the air, creating iron oxide. Previous studies of iron oxide on the Mars didn't detect evidence of water, leading researchers to believe the iron oxide must be hematite. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen this week directed their teams that the India European Union Free Trade Agreement should be concluded within the year. Briefing the media in New Delhi, Secretary West Tanmay Lal termed it as an important outcome of the discussions held between the two leaders in New Delhi. He said negotiations had been going on in this aspect. He also mentioned that there has been a very clear progress on the different working groups under the Trade and Technology Council. Mr. Lal said there has been progress in implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding on Semiconductors, from boosting supply chains to facilitating talent exchange and skilling. There is also a deepening collaboration between India AI Mission and the European AI Office on clean and green energy. Joint funding of 60 million euros has been announced for research projects. The Secretary West said an India European Union Green Hydrogen Forum will be held, and an India European Union Business Summit on offshore wind energy is also planned. Finance Secretary Tuhin Kanta Pandey has been appointed as the new chairman of the Securities and Exchange Board of India, also called as SEBI, for a term of 3 years. He will succeed Madhubhai Puri Bukh. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet had approved the appointment of Tuhin Kanta Pandey as the new chairman of SEBI. The center has amended the passport rules, making birth certificates issued by appropriate authorities the only proof of date of birth for passport applicants born on or after 1st of October 2023. An official notification has been issued in this regards, affecting the amendments to the passport rules of 1980. Under the new norms, the Passport Amendment Rule 2025, birth certificate issued by Registrar of Births and Deaths, the municipal corporation, or any other authority empowered under the Registration of Births and Deaths Act of 1969 will be accepted as proof of date of birth for persons born on or after 1st of October 2023. Other applicants can submit alternative documents such as a driver's license, PAN card, election photo identity card, or school leaving certificate as proof of date of birth. The United States President Donald Trump has called for an immediate ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine and warned Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to make peace or lose American support. The statement comes after a heated exchange of words between the two leaders over the path to a Ukraine Russia truce during a meeting at the White House in Washington last night. The war of words also led to collapse of the talks between the US and Ukraine to sign a deal on rare earth minerals and security guarantees as part of border negotiations on a possible truce in Ukraine's year-long war with Russia. Talking to the reporters of the verbal clash, President Trump said he believes Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready for a peace deal. Earlier, in a fiery public confrontation in presence of international media, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance accused President Zelensky of risking millions of lives and warning that his actions might lead to World War III.
Well, that's all, friends, for this week's updates. See you soon next Sunday on the same channel. Till then, take care. Bye bye.